Kia ora, welcome. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Shout Out, SBN's chance to shout out about all of the amazing sustainable businesses who are part of our network, who have these incredible stories to tell about ways that they are doing business and making the planet a better place for all of us through the amazing things that they do. This is my first chance to present a shout out and share with you. And the reason that I get to do that today is that the two businesses we're talking about today, Stansborough and the Formary, are Wellington businesses. So my name is Holly Norton. I'm the Central Regional Manager of the Sustainable Business Network. And both Cheryl Eldridge and Bernadette Casey are two incredible Wahine businesswomen, entrepreneurs and environmentalists who are going to share with us today some of the stories behind their businesses, ways that you can kind of get involved, ways that you can kind of access their products, and just further the good work that they're doing through their incredibly cool businesses. So we'll be kicking off first of all with Cheryl. She'll have 5 minutes to tell us about Stansborough, and then we'll be over to Bernadette to talk to us about the Formary and her textile reuse program. It's going to be very exciting today. They both have 5 minutes each. It's really snappy. And then we'll be over to you guys for 10 minutes of questions for each one. So whilst they're chatting, please pop your questions in the question box. You should see a Q&A bit at the bottom, and we'll do our very best to answer those as we go through. But first of all, I will bring up today Cheryl to talk to us about Stansborough and the amazing work that she's doing. So Cheryl is based just in Petone, just outside of Wellington. Good morning, Cheryl, or good afternoon now. Thanks for joining us. It's got some amazing sheep out in the wire wrapper where her beautiful, beautiful blankets and textiles and things are made from. And it's a sustainable textile production company with a zero carbon footprint, which is something I'm incredibly passionate about. So very excited to see. Cheryl, do you want to tell us some more about it?
Thank you for giving me the time to tell you a little bit about Stansborough. I'm Cheryl Eldridge. I'm the person who started this, and hopefully this is all working, some 30 years ago, where we bought a farm in the Wairarapa. And is this working, Kerry? Just start that one down. Sorry, I have a few tech issues here.
No, you're perfect. We can hear and see you perfectly.
Oh, you can see the video as well? Right, okay, right, okay, thank you. All right, okay, 30 years ago, we bought a farm in the Wairarapa. It's marginal country, so at the time we had to look at diversifying. So we looked at a variety of ideas. Came up with using a flock of grey sheep, which I'd found out about and done a bit of research. Now, I thought with the natural grey fibres, we could actually create something that was planet friendly and sustainable and make something else that was 100% New Zealand that we could then market to the rest of the world and around New Zealand. So that started my journey. Having got the flock, which have this beautiful grey wool that dates back to the Vikings. Now, the Vikings used to use their fleece for weaving into sails for their ships. So I knew it was a really good quality textile. So that actually began the journey.
Sorry, just to jump in, Cheryl.
And then along the way, I
wanted to start your presentation. So we can see you chatting, but not your slideshow yet.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
Sorry.
Hang on. Where are we now? I think we've, oh, I don't know why it's not going. Have we not shared it? Sorry, technical issues here.
That's all right.
Okay. It is working. Oh, there's shared. Let me do that one. Is that working? I don't know why it's not working. Maybe go back to that one.
Always does this hurts. Perfect in the technical.
Oh, sorry.
No problem.
Oh, there we go. Oh, no, we're all over the place now. Okay. I'll let my tech expert here, I'll carry on talking, shall I? Would that be the easiest thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorting out the pictures. Okay, so basically I had to find some looms really to try and make the textile to make. So I spent a while, and I found a man with a shed, and in his shed he had some very old looms that dated back to 1890s. So the deal was that I learnt, I did an apprenticeship with him for 5 years and learned how to commercially weave sustainable textiles, the traditional way and the traditional way of finishing textiles. And at the end of 5 years, unfortunately, he died of a heart attack. So my partner, who was an engineer at the time, decided he'd come and help me with the looms. Each of these weigh about 3.5 tons. Actually, we now have 6 of the only ones left in the world, clacking away. I have an artisan team who work with me, so I don't do it all myself any longer. But we have 6 of these working all the time. So basically, yeah, we decided to make our textiles and we decided to open the market, and we took some product to London and opened the market there, which was quite successful, having opened the market in New Zealand, and we decided we'd take on this America. So we took some samples over there, and while we were there, they got into the hands of Nyla Dixon, who was the costume designer for Lord of the Rings. And Nyla came to New Zealand to find us when Peter Jackson was working on the movie, well, the start of the Lord of the Rings movies, and then that actually launched us into the movie industry. And then since then, we've probably done over 20 movies. Obviously, some of them well known, some of them not so well known. But all of those are made out of durable textiles. So they actually last the distance when used on set, which a lot of synthetic fabrics can't. So that made them really desirable for the movie industry, but also lots of our other customers as well. So now we do a range of corporate gifting. We do a range of blankets and throws for lodges all over New Zealand. We work with fashion designers. We work with interior designers. We work with architects. We supply super yachts and golf clubs and all sorts of things. So basically we tend to design and bespoke weave a range of textiles, but they've all got to be chemical free. They've all got to be traceable right back to the farm. So we know just about every sheep that they've come off. So we're quite proud. We're a very proud New Zealand team. The farm is run by my son now. We have a humane way of management on the farm. We care very much about our stock. We run less stock numbers on the farm that we've got, which is very beautiful. And we spend a lot of time doing retirement bush blocks and looking after our lakes and our rivers, and doing Manuka honey, and that's going to continue for the next generation. So we'll continue to run less and less stock as the time goes on, and we'll actually look after our special piece of land, and hopefully that will end up yeah, being around for generations to come, at a better place than even was when we got it. Over the COVID-19, we launched a COVID-19 collection, which was actually to try and help pull us through. We had to think outside the square. I wanted to save my artisan skills for my team, but I also wanted to put something back. So we decided we'd index it to Women's Refuge. We've had a superb response, including from the PM, where they auctioned one of our blankets. So I think that's something to shout out about. She came and did a fantastic tour and signed one of our blankets, which raised a good deal of money for Women's Refuge. Again, during this time, we felt that it was a really good cause. A lot of people needed that help right then, and it's been very successful. So yep, that's basically my story, I think. There's obviously a lot to it. Please visit the website. You'll hear a lot more about us online, and you'll be able to see a lot of the product that's available. It's made right here in Petone by my fantastic team, and hopefully we'll be able to continue in the future. But I think that's basically most of the story I can tell you. Hopefully that covers all of it. I'm just burbling now. Can you still hear me?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Can you hear me now, Cheryl?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you so much for that. That was absolutely fascinating and beautiful to see some of the images as well of that gorgeous, gorgeous wool. We now have 10 minutes to have some questions. So what I'm going to do, if you can stop sharing your screen, I'll pop back up as well, and we can have a bit of a chat. We've got some questions coming in from the audience, which is awesome. I'll just let you stop sharing your screen for a second.
All right, thank you.
Sure, wonderful. So I've got questions flooding in, but I'll kick off with one of my own first of all. So you mentioned kind of first of all that you have a carbon zero footprint. Yes. Obviously you're rearing sheep in order to create wool. Agriculture obviously has a lot of questions in it around going carbon zero. How is it that you managed to get your carbon zero status?
Well, because we haven't fertilized for over 25 years. We actually farm sustainably on the farm. We actually use a limited amount of animal husbandry. We're not organic because we want to make sure that the stock is cared for and they get the health treatment that they need. But we tend to work within the environment as much as possible when farming the stock. And the careful management we do, but we don't tend to fertilize. We tend to retire blocks and fence them out so the animals have good shelter and good water. We drink the same water the stock actually drink. So we've got pretty clean rivers and pretty clean lakes where we are, so we don't farm stock in those areas. So and then of course we're traceable right through, because we process right the way through, from the sheet to the scouring to the spinning to the right to what we do in the factory, which is the weaving and the finishing. So we've got that control right the way through, and it's all chemical free. So we've got an accredited scouring practice where the wool is washed, and then we use vinegars and wool washers. We don't tend to use any chemicals on finishing the product. So the looms too use very, very little electricity, because most of it's hand woven or hand input. So there's very little effect on the environment. Plus the fact we're planting lots of trees to zero balance our carbon footprint.
Yeah, it sounds incredibly sustainable, and just a beautiful, beautiful product coming out of it as well. Somebody asked a question which sounds relevant to that. So you said you're chemical free. Somebody had a question whilst you were chatting about sheet dipping. Is that still a thing? And if so, does this count as treating wool with chemicals?
Well, we don't tend to dip. Well, we do dip, but we try and use the ones that are biodegradable as much as possible, really. And again, you know, we can only work with what we can that's available for the sheep, but obviously the sheep need to have their health cared for, so we try and do it as an environmentally friendly way as we can, but we try and make sure the ones that we use are biodegradable, but there are probably a few chemicals within some of those. We would have to use what's available on the market at the moment.
And another slightly different question's come up here, but this one is about, you talked a bit about this COVID response where you have these amazing blankets being sold to support women's refuge, and that the PM got involved, which is so amazing. One of the questions coming through was, can you explain a bit more about that and how you're supporting women through that program?
Well, we actually, for every product, actually donate refuge, which is a reasonable amount, and we've sold actually quite a lot at the moment. We've raised about $2,000 for them. The one that we gifted to the PM, she signed it, and that was auctioned, and they paid that directly to the Women's Refuge, which was about $800, I think, in the end. So that was a good bonus. But it's 2 nights stay in a women's refuge for every $50 pays for a woman to stay in a women's refuge for 2 nights stay. So woman or child, yeah.
Wow, $50. So it's quite a few night stays that you've managed to get through your blankets. Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah. It was a twofold help. It was helping us as well as helping them. So. And it's a limited edition collection, so they're all they're all numbered, so we know exactly who's bought every one, where they've gone. They're all numbered. They all come with a signed certificate, so they're all a registered collection.
Oh, fantastic. And it sounds like, as you're saying, you're kind of scale back production over the years and invest more into the land. They're probably quite limited edition things, you know, we're not always going to be able to access it. So many
they are. And with the grey sheep, of course, we don't use any bleaches on the sheep. Anything that we use the natural colours of the 3 shades of grey. We've also got a few alpacas, so we use their natural colours with the fleece to make as well. We use wool. We use other merino that we buy, which is New Zealand merino. We know we can trace it back to the farm and keep that same sustainability theory going through. So yeah, we're doing what we can, as much as we can.
Fantastic. I just want to get through a couple more questions, because we're going to jump over to Bernadette in just a second. There's so many that have come in, but we've got a few questions. I'll pick this one, which says, do fashion designers use your fabric in their ranges, and are you feeling any upswell by the buy local push that we're hearing in response to COVID at the moment?
We are actually. We've actually just done a collection for Karen Walker, which again had to have a lot of criteria. She wanted to know exactly where the wool came from, how it was done. It's a natural colour in the collection, so it's got no biodegradable overdyes used in it either. It's natural ecru's, greys and blacks, and yeah, it's great. Lovely collection for her, but we've definitely done collections for designers overseas and in Australia. We did quite a lot of work in Australia as well with both fashion designers and interior designers. So
Amazing. That sounds great. And that probably answers, other people have been asking, do you use all the wool yourself or can others buy it? But it sounds like you're definitely working with other people. So I don't know if some of the questions coming in are from people interested in perhaps getting in touch to buy some wool, but it sounds like it's something you might be open to.
Oh yes, well we tend to use all the wool ourselves. As I say, we have to shear our sheep twice a year because they're a primitive breed, so we have to control their fleece by doing that. So we have a reasonable amount from there. We've got a flock of about 1,500 that are shorn twice a year, but we use every piece of the wool at the moment. And as I say, there's a resurgence of interest in natural 100% New Zealand product at the moment, but certainly go to the website and have a look, and I think that'll answer a lot of the questions as well. So
fantastic. And I'll just finish off on, we've got somebody who's asked 2 questions and they're really interested in both the type of wool. So they've asked a question around what micron wool do you produce and weave with? And they've also asked, do you scour and spin the fiber in New Zealand? So probably someone who knows a lot about wool by the looks of the questions.
yes, it's all spun in New Zealand, it's woven and designed in New Zealand, it's packaged with New Zealand biodegradable product, and it's exported from here. So it's totally New Zealand, totally New Zealand team. So right back to the sewn on labels, that all is made right here in New Zealand, and actually as much of it in the Wellington area, but I said the spinning is done in the North Island or the South Island, but right, everything's done. It's completely 100% pure New Zealand product. So so we have that control, so which is great. So we know exactly who does what.
Amazing. It's so important in sustainability to have that visibility. Absolutely. And actually,
it's having more and more important. Yeah.
We have 1 minute on the clock and one question just popped up. So I'll allow this as the very last one. We can come back at the end if we do have some more time. But so we have a question here about, do you have any advice from a farming perspective for a brand wanting to work directly with wool farmers?
Well, I think you just have to do your research. It's getting harder and harder to get it all processed in New Zealand each year. I mean, I've been in it for 30 years. Every company in New Zealand that have processed wool here. There's very few of them left. So I think you probably, we do get asked by lots of people all the time, but just that the quantity is the problem now. It's actually having the quantity to process. So you've got to have enough wool to process to make your product, but we're willing to work, and we design things for all sorts of people with all sorts of collections and can sell it under their own labels. So if I can help everybody, we're willing to do that. As I say, it won't necessarily all be with our own wool, but we can supplement it with other good New Zealand wools as well. So happy to work with anybody who's got a good commercial idea and wants to make something sustainable.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
It's got to be New Zealand product.
Thank you so much. That, I feel like you crammed a lot of information into that question and answer session. Thank you. Obviously, a lot of people listening in who seem to know a lot about wool, a lot about the industry, and seem really impressed with what you're doing. Some really great advice for people looking for really sustainable, beautiful, quality materials.
Well, we need to sort of continue to support it, because by supporting us and what we do, they're supporting all the other relevant industries for processing throughout New Zealand. So we all need to, we're in this together, all of us. So we need that support, which is why we launched that collection. And it's for my team, but it's also for all the other people involved in the wool industry in New Zealand. And we've done it for so many years. We've made quality product. We need to continue doing that.
Amazing. Thank you. And that is such a great note to finish up on for now. We'll come back together at the end, but absolutely, please do support buying locally made, beautiful and sustainable products. So important. Thank you, Cheryl. If you just hang out for 10 minutes while we bring Bernadette up, and we'll all come back together at the end just to answer any last questions. Thank you. So I'll hand over now to our next speaker, which I mentioned is Bernadette Casey from the Formary. So the Formary is a awesome business and program here in Wellington, particularly focusing on textile reuse and basically helping businesses increase their value and reduce the impact of textiles and textile waste by giving it new lives, finding amazing things to do with it. They're incredibly sustainable and better for the planet. Bernadette has mentioned that today there's a whole range of things that they do, but it's going to be particularly focused on Used Fully, which is their new product stewardship program for textiles that businesses can get involved in and essentially reduce their impact on the environment by doing awesome things with their textile waste. Is that right, Bernadette? I'll hand over to you and let you explain a bit more about it.
It is right, and that's perfect. Thank you, Holly. Thanks for the introduction, and kia ora koutou. I'm just going to jump straight in and share my screen. Is that working? Can you see my screen? What's happened there?
Not yet.
Don't see it. Hang on, share screen. Why is that not working? Oh, there we go.
There we go. It's come up now.
Perfect. I'll just go full screen. Right. Technology. As Holly mentioned, Usefully is an offshoot of the Formary, which is a textile research company, and we've developed this program. We work at the end of use space or end of life space, and we've developed this program to create a whole systems change around how we use and how we capture the full value of our clothing. So the clothing industry faces a number of challenges. Annual clothing production is over 100 billion units, and only a tiny, tiny fraction of these clothes are ever recycled. Over 80% of the world's drinking water is contaminated with microplastics, and about 30% of which comes from our clothing. The clothing and textile industry creates more greenhouse gases than global shipping and aviation combined. And it takes about 3 years of a person's drinking water to create one single cotton t-shirt. So it's really, really resource intensive. Most clothing ends up in landfill, and as Holly mentioned before, we're all Wellington, Cheryl and Holly and I are all based in Wellington. For Wellington alone, there's 93 tonnes of textile waste goes to landfill every single week, and this creates 3 times its weight in greenhouse gases. Meanwhile, virgin resources continue to be extracted to feed the industry. However, in all this madness, there is a solution. Working together with industry partners, Usefully is driving the reuse of unwanted clothing and textiles through a circular system that fully utilises this untapped resource. Through our product stewardship pilot, which we kicked off last week, our research and development into high-value, large-scale solutions like fibre to fibre, we're able to loop these resources back into usefulness. Our digital tracking platform, Usefully, provides brands and organisations the ability to be able to calculate the environmental impacts of their clothing for better resource management, and then connect their clothing through to the reuse market when they no longer need it or want it. So we connect the whole ecosystem from high value rewear and redesign of good quality garments and through to industrial inputs when the clothes are no longer able to be worn. Usefully is for any business or any organisation that produces, supplies or uses clothing and textiles and really wants to make a difference. So whoever you are, we can help you reduce your waste and carbon emissions. We can improve oversight and optimise resource management, help you meet your stakeholder and customer expectations, and front foot policy and regulation changes through our product stewardship pilot. And perhaps most importantly of all is turn these used garments into valued and useful products. In the fight against textile waste, become a sustainability hero by joining Usefully, at turning the sea of unwanted clothing into useful things through localised solutions that serve our needs here and now. Thank you. Are you there, Holly?
I am just turning my video back on.
Might have been a bit short there. That wasn't probably quite 5 minutes.
No, absolutely fine. So you can hear me. I'm sure my video is just about to come on. There we go. Perfect. Thank you. Oh, that was awesome. And it's really, really cool to see the whole sort of layout of all the different things that you can do with textile waste to kind of create new lives for it that businesses probably aren't even aware that they could be doing with some of their uniforms and the clothing that they're using. I saw some brands like Air New Zealand's colours pop up in there at one point, and Wellington Zoo. So it sounds like you've worked with some exciting people, you know, to get this program to come to life. So Usefully, you kind of took us through it, but if I was a business sitting here going, wow, actually I hadn't even considered I might have textile waste, how do I go about contacting you, and what might be some of the solutions that you might have? Do you help me sort of understand what to do with those materials, or do you kind of have some places I can send it? How does it work?
How it works, you join the Textile Reuse program. So that's it's a set program, and it's a collaboration aligning industry with this shared vision around circularity. We also, like the Formary does offer sustainability consulting if you want a one-off bespoke looking at a particular issue or range of issues across your supply chain or across your value chain. So we can offer that one-off solutions, but it's actually best if you join the whole industry with us and we create the solution together, because it's going to require collaboration to deal with it, because it's such a massive issue and no one organisation can solve it on their own.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, it's really important to be part of a community. I know certainly SBN finds it very similarly, as you would know being a member, that when you've got a whole community of people trying to solve problems, particularly when they've all got a shared problem, it really adds some weight behind coming up with those solutions. Yeah, fantastic. So there's a couple of questions that are quite similar that have just come through. One is about, is Usefully currently capable of recycling textiles into textiles to be used by a clothing brand? And the other one, I'll ask at the same time because it's very similar, but basically is asking, can you reprocess the textiles that you have into new textiles? E.g., could you take old uniforms and make them back into the same new uniforms?
Right. In New Zealand, we do have limited capability, and where we are with the whole program is mapping out the ecosystem. So if you've got used clothing that's still really good value and can be worn again, the most sustainable thing you can do is to re-wear it as clothing rather than turn it into something else. So the aim is always to keep the clothing at its highest value that you can. So from the highest value, if clothing is returned or no longer wanted, it's directly into a reuse market. Next down is to be re-engineered and made into clothing, maybe mended, and then it works down this hierarchy. If it gets to a point where these clothes don't want to be worn, or for brand or security issues can't be worn, then it can go into products like the cellulose roding product, a product that showed just before. In terms of turning it back into fibres for yarn, we did that project with Air New Zealand, where we took their really distinctive koru uniforms and through a fibre to fibre process of green chemistry it's converted back into its molecular parts, and then you can re-extrude it as a filament for synthetics, but we don't have that industry in New Zealand. We are looking at onshoring that technology. There's a few people looking at the space at the moment, and we're seeing a lot of interest around turning it back into yarn. Our industry here, as Cheryl pointed out, is a wool industry. So for wool garments, yes. For other fibres, no. It was a very complicated answer.
No, it's quite a complicated process, it sounds like. There's a lot of things going on, from whether you're just trying to reuse the clothing itself or break it down and to give it a new life somewhere. But it sounds really, I think we get the idea that if you've got wool, that is something you can make back into yarn. You can do it with other kind of materials, but it's a bit trickier. We don't quite have that industry yet here, but I guess that's what the community is kind of working together to do, is find new solutions and things we can work together on.
Yeah, and it's across a really broad range. So you have all your synthetic fibres, you've got your natural fibres, your cotton, your wool, your silk, etc. And every different fibre requires a different type of processing. So it is complex, but the drivers are there.
And somebody asked, I think you answered this a bit, but do you have a few more examples of repurposed products that come from clothing waste? So you've mentioned you can, with some, make them back into yarn. Some can be roding pellets. Is there any other examples of things that textile waste can become in a new life?
textiles can become anything. So with the fibre to fibre that takes it, breaks it down, breaks synthetic clothing down to its molecular parts, that can be re-extruded as any type of recycled PET. So it can go into a vast range of different really useful plastic products. I mean, we obviously, as we need to move away from that single-use plastics, but plastics are really useful product if it's managed properly. So synthetic garments like your polyester shirt, you could turn into any kind of recycled PET. You could turn it, and I'm just looking at my desk. No plastic on it. You could turn it into anything like furniture, like stackable furniture, glasses, frames, any kind of those little plastic clips or conduits that you need, you know, anything that you can think of that's made out of plastic, you can pretty much turn your synthetic clothing into.
Great, and so much better than those those microfibers and things from the plastics going back into oceans and things just to be reused into something we would have made anyway out of virgin oil. So much better to be using our clothing to make that.
Yeah, and you certainly don't want synthetic clothing going into landfill because it literally takes hundreds and hundreds of years for it to break down, and so it leaves this multi-generational issue. So we really need to be dealing with it up front. It should never go to landfill.
Somebody mentioned here sneakers. Is there something we can do with sneakers? Apparently in the US, Nike has a sneaker reuse program.
Yeah, we don't deal with sneakers or footwear. That's an absolute minefield, and we're staying well away from that and letting those big boys like Nike deal with that.
Okay, so if you are a shoe manufacturer in New Zealand right now, it's not quite a solved thing. You might have to look overseas for a solution still.
Yeah, it connects through to the footwear industry on a whole.
Right, cool. We've only got like about a minute left, and there's a few more questions. I'll try and speed through them. One is, you mentioned the statistic of 93 million tonnes for Wellington alone. Is the statistic from an independent study? And do you have a figure for New Zealand textile waste as a whole? Do you know how much that is?
Yeah. So it's 93 tonnes per week of waste textiles, which is a phenomenal amount. Auckland, we know Auckland's about 9% of their landfill. The last, what we understand is the last waste audit for the whole of New Zealand was done back in 2008. So the data is really out of date, and what we're doing with the product stewardship program is just updating that data. So we're doing the research around that at the moment because we don't know what's going into our landfill. And I know with Auckland Council, they've got an issue that some is recorded as textile waste and some goes as special waste and some goes into general waste. So they don't really have full clarity over what the textile waste is. And we haven't been doing a very good job at collecting that data.
It'd be really fascinating to know, huh? Interesting. A question's come up here. I don't know anything about this, so you might know what that means. What do you know about the Fabric Cup Pro? CUPPRO?
I don't know anything about it.
Great, neither do I. That makes me feel a lot better. Whoever it was who sent in that question, feel free to flick me a comment, and I can always link you up with myself and Bernadette later, and we can have a bit more of a chat if that's something that you know about.
Yeah, I'll check it out once we get offline.
Always open to learning. And another question is, do we have onshore ways of working with synthetics here in New Zealand?
Not in a closed loop sense, but the fibre to fibre technology that we showed you with in New Zealand, we did that study in California. And we're looking at onshoring that technology. So it won't go back into textiles in New Zealand, but it will go into other really useful recycled PET products.
Great. I think, unfortunately, I'm probably going to have to draw it there. There's a couple more questions that are coming in. But what people can do with more questions, I can see people asking questions about what technologies various countries have that they can reach. You know, can I do this in New Zealand? Can I do this in Australia? And also some really great questions around, you know, why has it taken so long for recycling of textiles to be happening if it's such a big problem, which I think we could all agree with. There's urgency to get some action around this. But if people want to continue the conversation, Bernadette, if they want to chat to you about their business and how they can do more, how do they find you?
They can jump onto textilereuse.com or the formary.com, and there's a connect link there, or you can just give me a call, 021 330 904, and I'd really love to hear from you.
Oh, that's so great. So rare that we get a straight direct dial phone number into somebody. So. There you go. If you're here and you've got it, that you had an amazing question that wasn't answered here today, just grab Bernadette's phone number there and give her a call. This is on Facebook Live and some other places, so you can go back and rewatch and kind of revisit some of that information as well. And also just like to bring Cheryl back up and say thank you as well to Cheryl from Stansborough. Super amazing to hear your story and about the sustainable work that you are doing. How would people reach you if they would like to get in touch, have more questions about wool or buying some products of yours?
Again, yeah, just either ring us direct to the factory or www.stansborough.co.nz, or just ring us on 566 5591, and we're always there to take your calls and help you with anything you need. So
fantastic. And if I could ask you both, if there's one thing that you want to leave the people who've tuned in today, we had about 100 people sign up for this event, so there's quite a lot of people that you can kind of to reach out and give a message not a message.
Sounds good.
About textiles in New Zealand, sustainability. What would it be? What would you like to leave people with? I'll start with Bernadette.
I'd say support New Zealand brands, but also ask them, when you purchase something, where can this clothing go when I've finished wearing it?
Great question. Good one to remember. And Cheryl?
Yeah, very similar. Support New Zealand. By New Zealand, you're supporting the whole team. And yes, people should care where it comes from and where it's going to end up. So it's really important for our whole futures. Yeah.
Fantastic. If you take nothing else away from this, if it's just support our amazing local industries, ask where it's coming from, and buy sustainable, ethical materials and find a good way to use it at the end of life, that is absolutely amazing. I think that is a fantastic message to leave people with today. Thank you all for coming. That's all for Shout Out. Shout Out is a weekly thing, so feel free to tune in next week to hear from 2 more amazing businesses, part of the Sustainable Business Network, telling their stories. And do take Bernadette and Cheryl up on their offers of getting in touch and connecting up with some awesome New Zealand businesses. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.